having a lot of different topics here. We're going to be talking about how to adopt a device, how to set up WLAN groups and multiple SSIDs. Every Unify access point supports 8 SSIDs, and you can configure 1 to 4 WLANs per WLAN group. So you may have different WLANs for your guest network, your corporate network, etc. We're going to talk about how do you configure security and firewall policies. We're going to talk about load balancing. What is the value of load balancing and how is it done in the Unify controller? We're going to talk about user groups. How do you set bandwidth limits? You may have different groups. You want to set different bandwidth limits. For example, for guests, you want to maybe set a limit to how much they can use in terms of bandwidth. You can definitely do that as well. We're going to talk about wireless uplinks. How can you connect one access point to another access point without a cable? And then we're also going to talk about guest Wi-Fi, guest portal, the free guest portal that the Unify controller offers you. We're going to talk about the hotspot manager and a number of other topics here. So I'm going to hand it over to Pranav now, and we're going to move over to the Unify controller, and we're going to walk through a lot of these different settings that are offered in the Unify controller. So also one more thing before that, anytime you want to test out the Unify controller, there's a demo available online. So if you go to demo.ui.com, so demo.ui.com right here, you can go there, and there's actually our CEO owns a basketball stadium in the United States, the Memphis Grizzlies. So we've set up Unify in the entire stadium there and uploaded the setup to the controller. So it's called the FedEx Forum. So you can actually see how that is managing right now. You can see there are 118 access points, 7 switches, 1100 clients connected. So anytime you want, even if you don't have a Unify controller with you, you can always go to demo.ui.com and play around with everything in the controller and see how the controller is. But for now, we're going to go to one of the controllers that's set up in our offices. And Pranav, I can let you talk about it.
All right, so you're looking at the main dashboard of the Unify controller. So this is where you see all the devices that are adopted, the switches, the gateway. You will see a warning over there as well that says your setup needs attention. That is because I think some of the devices in our lab are disconnected. So that's not something to worry about. All right, so I'm going to start going through the device section. All right, so whatever devices you adopt into the controller will be shown up here. When you hover over them, you'll be having an option to restart or upgrade the devices from here itself. So you won't have to do anything manually. Let's say that you want to restart the devices or make any changes, everything can be done from here. Now, in regards to USG, I had informed you guys that it has 4 ports which you can set up if you want. Okay, so when you go into ports, you have the option to configure the interfaces. So that means any interface or any port can be selected as a LAN, WAN, or like whatever you want to do. Assign the ports. You'll have an option to select each port as whatever you need. That is either a LAN port or a WAN port. Right. Same goes for the switches. Each device can be controlled from the controller itself. You can select whatever PoE that you want. You guys not able to hear me?
Okay, Pranav, maybe I can control the screen. I think that's causing some interference, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Is the audio better now? All right. Cool. Okay. So, like I was saying, so all the devices can be controlled from the controller. You saw about the USG. In regards to the switch, you can make whatever changes you want. Like set your ports or the PoE changes or the profile can be done from the controller itself. Okay, so we're going to move on to settings because a lot of people were asking about how to configure the controller or walk through the options in the controller. Right. So this is the site view where like Arnav said, you can have multiple sites in the controller. Okay, this is only for controllers that are self-hosted or the ones that are installed on the cloud or the cloud key. The UDM and the UDM Pro does not support multiple sites. So if you're having a controller at one location, that controller will only be usable for that particular location. You cannot use it for other sites. Okay, so over here, you have an option to name the site, set the country, the time zone. The LED status is for the LED status of all the devices that are adopted. You can either enable them or disable them. All right, let's scroll down a bit. All right, so the advanced features are applicable for both wired devices as well as wireless devices. So as you can see, the advanced features will help you set up band steering, minimum RSI, load balancing. Now, load balancing is something which is related to APs. This is not about the USG load balancing, that is a dual WAN failover. So load balancing will help to balance out clients between the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz band. Okay, so there's an option to send alert emails. So basically, anything that happens in the controller, let's say that a client connects or a client disconnects, or if there is a guest user who connects or disconnects or moves to a different AP, or if one of the devices is having issues and it gets disconnected, you can get alerts via emails to your email or as well as push notifications on your phone so that you are aware about what's happening in your network. Okay, the option that you see here, that is wireless uplink. This is something which will let you connect multiple APs wirelessly. So let's say that there is a scenario wherein you can only wire one AP and there is an AP on a different flow which cannot have a cable connection. In this case, you can enable wireless uplink, and once enabled, this will help. The AP will automatically scan the other AP which is not connected via cable. Okay, but for the initial setup, you will need to connect it to cable because the AP has to be adopted in the controller. So once the AP is adopted, you can place it anywhere else which does not have an Ethernet connection, and you will be able to adopt the AP wirelessly. So we have a KB article which provides detailed explanation about how to adopt the AP wirelessly. The next option that we see here is the syslog server. Now, there are two options. If you have a syslog server of your own, you can put in your IP address and it will send logs from all the devices that are adopted into the controller or any of the multiple sites to the IP address of the syslog server that you have specified. Now, if you enable the option, you also have an option to send the syslog server directly to the controller. This is good for scenarios wherein you do not have a syslog server of your own. Or let's say that you're deploying this for a customer who does not have a server or a syslog server setup. You can enable this option. All the logs from the devices will be sent to the controller, which can be viewed later. So this eliminates the need of having a syslog server for obtaining the logs. The next option, that is provider capabilities. This is something which you need to set depending upon your WAN speed or the ISP speed. That is how the data on the dashboard will be calculated. The next comes auto optimized network. This is a good option, but it might work negatively in some scenarios. But it will work very well if you do not have much interference. So basically, what this does is, it will also help you change the channels of the APs automatically. If there is interference, it will help you, block multicast or broadcast traffic if the AP is detecting too much interference, or if there are any packets dropped, the controller will automatically enable the option to block multicast and broadcast traffic. So like I said, this can work negatively because if you have a network or some device on your network that relies on broadcast and multicast and the AP is blocking this automatically, that can create problems for you. So it's better to keep it turned off unless you really need it and you're very sure about if it's helping you or not. The next option is device authentication. This is where you set the username and password for SSH login into your devices. So once you set this, you can use this username and password to log into any devices that are adopted into the controller. Right. Let's move to wireless networks. Okay, so this is a screen where you create your SSIDs for the APs. Arnav informed you, you can have multiple SSIDs. You can have up to 8 SSIDs. But when you create 8 SSIDs, I would like to tell you that you would not be able to use wireless uplink. So if you want to use wireless uplink, you might want to keep your SSIDs limited to 4, because the other two radios will the other radio will be used for uplinking to the other AP, which is wirelessly located. So when you create an SSID, you have an option to create open, that is without security. Now this is something which can be used if you're using Mac based authentication. We get a lot of customers who ask us that they do not want to enter a password, they just want devices to get authenticated using the Mac address. So you can use an open SSID with Mac based authentication that will help you, get your devices connected to the network without using a pre-shared key or the WPA key. So the other options are WEP. It's much outdated, so no one uses that these days. Then there's the WPA Personal and the WPA Enterprise. Now the WPA Enterprise can be used with the USG because the USG itself has a radius server that is built into it. So the USG, the USG4, the UDM, and the UDM Pro, like all the routers that we have a radius server that is built into it. So if you want to set up a connection where devices are authenticated based on a username and password, that can be set up without the need of setting up NPS, or that's a network policy server or Windows server, which is usually used for radius authentication. Moving on, like when you create an SSID, you will see that there's a checkbox that says guest policy. Okay, so this is something which can be used if you want to have a hotspot or a portal or a page that requires, voucher authentication or radius-based authentication. Right. So the other options that you see here under advanced block LAN to WLAN multicast and broadcast. This is helpful if you have some devices on LAN that are sending out multicast and broadcast traffic to the APs. When multicast or broadcast traffic is sent out on LAN, it's not much of a problem. But when they are sent over Wi-Fi, okay, that can really slow down your network, because that is multicast or broadcast traffic is something which is sent to all the clients. So that much of airtime will be used by the AP to deliver packets which are not even going to be used by those client devices. So this is a really good feature which will help you, filter out those multicast and broadcast data which is not required. Of course, you can add exceptions. For example, DHCP uses broadcast, so you can add an exception so that broadcast messages to the router or your DHCP server are not filtered or dropped. Next comes the VLAN ID. So when you connect the AP to a switch, okay, so you can trunk the port and you can have multiple VLANs. So let's say that you have a corporate VLAN which is VLAN 1, and you create a new VLAN, let's say VLAN 10, which is for guest. So when you create an SSID, you can just check the box here and you can put in the VLAN ID, and that will automatically create an SSID that is broadcasting the network on VLAN 10. Okay, next comes the fast roaming. This is an implementation of 802.1R. Once again, this is an option that you might want to enable if you are certain that all of your devices support fast roaming. Okay, so if you have older legacy devices or devices that do not support fast roaming, that will work negatively. It might not work in your favor. The next option is to hide SSID. That is, if you want an SSID not to be broadcast. The next comes WPM mode, which is again self-explanatory. I believe most of you must already be aware. You can either use AES or you can use TKIP or set it to auto. TKIP is not used much these days. Most of the devices rely on AES. Okay, so next comes the user group. You might have seen in some of the slides that we mentioned, you can set up bandwidth limits. So you can create user groups. For each user group, you can set a bandwidth limit. So let's say that you have a 50 Mbps connection on your LAN, and you have created a guest network which you want to limit to 5 Mbps. So you can create a user group. Arnav, can you scroll to user group on the left side of settings? All right. So if you see here, You can create a name, you can limit the bandwidth and limit the upload bandwidth. Okay, so once you have created a user group, you can have multiple user groups, so there's no limit to that. So once you have created the user group, you can go to your wireless network, and once you've created the network, you can just select whichever user group you want. Right. UAPHD is a power save delivery that will help any clients which support power saving mode to go into power save. So basically, an AP is, it keeps sending a beacon to wireless devices, which that's how the wireless devices maintain a link with the AP. So if there are any clients which support UAPHD, you can enable that, and the clients can go into sleep mode. Once again, this is a client feature. So if you enable it without knowing what clients you have, it can work negatively and can affect other clients as well. Now, schedule is another good feature that we have. So let's say that you have a guest network. You can set up a schedule so that it only broadcasts during a particular time in a day. So right now, if you see, the schedules are mostly set to between 8 to 6. So you can accordingly use the sliders and select in between what time do you want the AP to broadcast. So for example, for Monday, the AP will automatically start broadcasting at 9:45 and it will stop broadcasting at 7:45. So this is good for offices or hotels where you do not want any clients to connect after business hours. So the AP will automatically stop broadcasting. Any clients who are connected will automatically be disconnected. Right, combined name. Okay, the rate control. Talking about the rate control, this is common with all the wireless APs. You can select the DTM intervals that you want, and the 2G data rate control. If you have older devices, you can use lower rate control. If you have newer devices, you can use higher rate control. So this is basically something that will help you deal with device compatibility. So the next comes the MAC filter. MAC filter, I'm sure that most of you must be aware. This is something which will help you block or allow MAC addresses. So, for example, if you create a whitelist, only the MAC addresses which have been added into the whitelist will be able to connect. Anything that is not in the whitelist would not be able to connect. And in regards to the blacklist, any MAC addresses which are in the list will be blocked from connecting, and anything that's not in the list will be able to connect. The last option, that is radius MAC authentication, which is what I told you about when using the open network. So if you want to set up a network where the users do not have to enter a pre-shared secret or username password, you can set up a MAC based authentication. Whenever there is a particular user with his device which is already in the system who is connecting, will automatically get authenticated and will connect to the AP. Okay, let's move on to networks. Right, so this is where you create all your networks. That will be your VLAN or your VLAN only networks, or if you want to create a site to site or your L2TP. Okay, Arnav, can you please click on create a network? Okay, so when you select the option to create a network, so you will see here that there are multiple options. So you can either create a network as corporate. A corporate network is something that will not have any restrictions. Then comes the guest network. A guest network will be created with restrictions. None of the guest clients would be able to access any of the corporate VLANs. So you don't have to create any additional rules. The firewall rules will be created automatically as soon as you create a guest network. Under LAN, you see there are three options right now. That is LAN 1, LAN 2, LAN 3. That is because I do not have a second ISP connected. So that's the reason I have an option to set up the third LAN interface on the USG4 instead of using it as a WAN. Okay, now back to the top, you'll see that there's an option for VLAN only. Now, VLAN only is something that you might want to use when you are not using the switch with a USG. So let's say that you have a third party router on which VLANs are created. And let's say that you have a Cisco router which has a trunk of 3 or 4 VLANs. So when you want to pass it to the UniFi switch, you have to create a VLAN only network. Just put in the VLAN ID in the box, and that will automatically add the required VLANs into the VLAN database on the switch. Okay, along with that, you also have to enable the option for IGMP snooping and DHCP guarding, which is DHCP guarding is basically something that will block traffic from other DHCP servers which are not mentioned in the trusted DHCP list. The next is remote user VPN. Right, so remote user VPN will let you create two types of VPNs, that is PPTP and L2TP. Right, so the L2TP is grayed out here because I already have a L2TP server created. So you cannot have multiple L2TP servers. Similarly, you cannot have multiple PPTP servers. So like I said, there are two options, the PPTP server and L2TP server. And the authentication for these clients will be done using either a third-party Radius server that you have or the inbuilt Radius server that is the USG. Right, let's move on to site-to-site VPN. Right, so these are the options. Like I said, this is something which is created automatically. So let's say that you have 3 sites in the controller. All you have to do is go to a site and select the remote site. So if you click on the remote site, and if there are multiple sites, you can select any site that you want, which has a USG. And once you click on save, the VPN link will be established automatically without any additional settings needed. So that's all you have to do. So let's say that you have 2 sites, the other site, you select it, you click on save, and after a minute, your site-to-site link will be up. The other option is manual IPsec. This can be used with third-party devices or USGs that are not adopted into the same controller. That is, if they are on a different site. So in case of you aware of the options, these are basically the parameters that you need to be set when setting up a site-to-site VPN. The next is OpenVPN. Once again, OpenVPN can be used either with USGs or in scenarios where USG is behind a NAT. That is, it does not have a public IP and the other USG has a public IP. In such scenarios, IPsec won't work, or you might need additional settings which might not be possible on the pure router. So in this case, you can use OpenVPN, but the speed with OpenVPN will be reduced. It might be like around 20 to 30 Mbps on a USG and around 100 Mbps on a USG4. The reason being that OpenVPN traffic is not offloaded, but IPsec, that is for auto VP IPsec and manual IPsec, is offloaded, so you should be able to get much better speeds. All right, can you move back to corporate VLAN? Also corporate network.
Yeah, just a quick thing. I want to talk about the VPN. I think right now, a lot of people are working from home and a lot of people are working remotely. So it's becoming increasingly important for companies to have VPNs. And I think companies are realizing how essential VPNs are. So definitely, I think the two important things to look at right now is the remote user VPN and the site-to-site VPN. And we also have, if you Google about it, we have some really good help articles online as well, which explain how those work. So basically, remote access VPN is one that allows users to establish a secure network and let them connect to their office's LAN network. So by doing this, the users can access the resources from that secure network as if they were sitting and working in the office. And that's a little bit different. Just want to the difference between that and the site-to-site VPN. The site-to-site VPN is actually used if you want to convert an entire new site into your office's network. So while remote access VPN connects individual devices like your laptops and your desktops and your phones to your office LAN, the site-to-site VPNs are actually used to extend your entire company's network across different locations. So if a company is setting up multiple offices, the site-to-site VPN option is a great option to have all your offices connected on the same LAN network. So just want to clarify the difference here a bit, since a lot of people right now are asking questions about VPN and a lot of people are using VPNs right now. Yeah, okay, Pranav, where should I move on to?
All right, let's go to corporate, the corporate network. Right, so when you create a network, you have multiple options here. So when the initial network does not have a VLAN option, so by default the USG or the UDM will the default network will be on VLAN 1. But any additional networks that you create, you have an option to set a VLAN ID. So whenever you connect a UniFi switch or a third-party switch, you can create trunks so that these VLANs are passed on to the switches. The next option is to set the gateway, the subnet, and the IGMP snooping, most of which are self-explanatory. In DHCP mode, there is an option to enable DHCP server of the USG, which is inbuilt. Or if you have a third-party DHCP server, let's say that you have a Windows server which is providing DHCP, you can enable DHCP relay, and the USG will automatically create the internal configuration on the switches and the USG itself, which is required for the clients to obtain DHCP. The DHCP name server is the DNS address. Then we have the leash time and the gateway IP, which again are self-explanatory. Now you'll see there is an option called DHCP Unify Controller. Okay, this is a very useful option if you're going to deploy multiple devices, and particularly at a site which has a USG. So when you set the IP address of Unify Controller in that box, so let's say that you have a cloud key or a controller that is running on a PC, all you have to do is just put in the IP address. Any devices that you connect to the network thereon will automatically get adopted or automatically get discovered in the Unify Controller without having to run set inform manually. The next comes DHCP guarding, which again, like I said, it will block any DHCP servers that are not in the network or that you don't want to use. The next is UPnP, like a basic home router. We have added a function for UPnP so that port forwards are created automatically. So whenever a device requests for certain ports to be open, the UPnP function will automatically create those forwarding rules on the USG. Then there are advanced DHCP options. So there are plenty of options. So I wouldn't be talking about that much. But basically, DHCP options can be used for a variety of purposes. Most of the customers that we get use it for VoIP. So let's say that you have a VoIP server or a TFTP server which is located or which is used for network boot. You can specify these options here, and those settings will automatically be applied to the inbuilt DHCP server. So there is no CLI based config or anything that is needed to do this. All you have to do is select any of the boxes from the list, put in any details that you need, and it will automatically be applied to the DHCP server. So the custom DHCP options is used for the advanced DHCP option that is specified above it. Next comes the IPv6 network. We don't have IPv6 here, but in case if there are any ISPs that are providing IPv6, that is something which you can use from here. You can just select the IPv6 gateway or subnet. That is if you're having a static DHCP v6. If not, you can just use DHCP v6 on your WAN, and there's a checkbox for DHCP v6 in between over there, which you can select for automatic IPv6 configuration. Arnav, can you cancel this? Go back to the network list screen. All right. If you look for management LAN 1, can you edit it? Go to actions and click on edit for management LAN 1. All right. Let's scroll down. Okay, so this is how the IPv6 network is set up. So currently I'm having a static IPv6 in my lab. So that's the reason that I have enabled static IPv6. The DHCP v6 is something which will help me to provide IPv6 to all the clients that are connecting on my LAN, that is the VLAN 1. Okay, so next comes the routing and firewall. Okay, so there, if you see, there are 4 sections over here. The first section is static routes. You can either create a route based on your next hop, or you can create an interface route. Okay, so there are 2 options, nothing more to it. Next comes the firewall. Right, so if you look here, there are 3 groups for WAN, there are 3 for LAN, and 3 for guest. So basically, WAN and rules are applied for any traffic that is going from the internet towards your LAN devices. So you can create those rules over here. WAN out would be any traffic that is going from your LAN devices towards the internet. WAN local would be traffic that is going from the internet to your USG. That is, let's say that you want GUI access or you want SSH access. You can create those rules under WAN local. The next comes LAN in. This is something which can be used for blocking inter-VLAN traffic. So let's say that you have 2 corporate VLANs and you don't want traffic to reach the other VLAN, you can create rules here. So LAN out and LAN local, like I said, LAN out would be traffic that is going from the LAN towards the USG. LAN local is something which you can use in guest networks. So let's say that you do not want the clients to be able to access the USG or any services that are running on the USG except DNS and DHCP. You can create those rules here. Similarly, you can do the same for guest in. Like I said, the guests are automatically blocked, so there's no need to create the additional rules. So if you see here, there are drop rules already created. That is 3005 to 3007, which will automatically block any of the guest clients from contacting the other VLANs or other networks that are created. Right, let's okay, over here, or this is how you create a firewall rule. Okay, so you have an option of creating a rule before the predefined rules or after the predefined rules. So rules basically work on an indexing system. Any rules that are created first are executed first. The ones that come later are executed in the last. The options are to drop packets, reject packets, or accept packets. You can select the IPv4 protocol, or you can select the protocol manually from by name or by specifying a protocol number. Next comes the logging. Logging is something which will help you to understand if the rules are being actioned or not, or what's happening with the rules. So any rules that are being logged would be sent to the syslog server. So like I explained previously, under the site settings, if you have a syslog server or if you have enabled the option to log, send the logs to the controller, all these logs will be created, a file will be created in the controller, which will be having logs for all the firewall rules. The next is the states. Like I said about packet states, the new, established, invalid, and related are different packet states because all our devices have a stateful firewall. That's how the packets are filtered. And the other options, that is the source and the destination. So you can create multiple address groups or network groups or specify single IP addresses from which you want to block traffic, or to, that is the destination which you want to block traffic. Right. So port forwarding is something very basic. We've been seeing this from, like, even the simple home routers like D-Link have this option. So it will just help you forward external ports to your internal ports. So all you have to do is create a new port forward rule, specify the IP address, select the source port and the destination port, and save the settings. So once the settings are saved, it will automatically create a rule that can, you know, help you use the port forward. The next is GeoIP filtering. This is something which is in beta, but it works. So let's say that you have deployed the USG in a location and that particular facility does not want traffic coming in from other countries. So you can just add those countries here. The list for GeoIP is populated, it's populated every 24 hours. So once it's updated, any IPs belonging to that country will automatically block. So you have an option of blocking traffic to that country, that is outgoing, or traffic coming in from that country, that is incoming. So if you do not want traffic to come from some country, you can just add it in the list, and this will automatically disable any traffic coming from those IP addresses. Right. The next is threat management. Right. So threat management is basically IPS and IDS. If you read the warnings above, this is something which will disable offloading, and it will also reduce your throughput. So in the USG and the UAG4, the throughput is reduced to a greater extent. But on the newer devices that are UDM and the UDM Pro, they both can handle traffic at up to 800 Mbps with IPS or IDS enabled. So basically, these functions will help you block spyware or malware on your computers, or any devices that are trying to access a Tor or any other websites will be blocked using this option. So we have a KB about this. I'll be sharing it later once I'm done with the controller so that you guys can go through it. Next is DPI. So this is one of the oldest features. The DPI basically inspects all the packets that goes through the USG, and based on an inbuilt list of signature, it categorizes all the websites that you have into different categories. So Arnav, can you go to the dashboard? Okay, so if you see here, it will show you a list of all the data that has been used. Can you click on the UTM in the client list or the ER6P? All right, scroll down. Okay, can you go to deep packet inspection? So I don't see anything for this, but if there is any client that is visiting websites, the data will get populated over here. So you can also view it under statistics. That is the second option on the left, the one above map. Okay, so this is a view of your entire network, like whatever is happening on the network, you will be able to see like what websites are being visited or what's the resources that are used and the amount of data that is being used for those particular applications. I would like to add this will only work for websites that are built into the DPI signatures. So we have most of the websites, but there might be a lot of websites which are not in the DPI signatures. So those will get categorized as others. But the most of the common websites that are used on a daily basis have been added to the DPI signatures. Right, let's go back to settings. Right, can you click on DPI restrictions? Okay, so this is where you create a restriction group. Um can you click on add restriction? Okay, so once you select a group, you can select what what is the category that you want to block. Let's say that you want to block streaming media or any particular categories like P2P, that is for torrents. You can do this. And once again, you have the option of logging traffic to your syslog. So you can use these rules. You can use the logging option to log to your syslog. So once you click on save, okay, so you have created a group. You need to add, click the add option under it. All right, click save. Okay, so this creates the restrictions. Once the restrictions are created, you can use the restriction assignment. Now, the DPI restriction can be assigned to any networks that you have created. So if you have multiple VLANs, you can assign it to any VLANs. So let's say that you don't want the guest users to access any streaming media like YouTube. You can create a restriction for YouTube or streaming media and assign it to your guest network. So anyone connecting to the guest network would not be able to use YouTube or any streaming media websites. Right. The next is guest control. Okay, so once guest portal is enabled, you have four options. You can either just have a portal with no authentication at all. The user will just get a screen that is your guest login page. They'll click on continue and they'll be able to use the portal. The other one is simple password, where and once directed to the portal, they will be asked for a password. Next is the hotspot, which can be used for radius or voucher-based authentication or even Google and Facebook-based authentications. Okay, can we select hotspot and scroll down? Okay, so you have two options. You can either have your own portal or you can select any of the options from your user Angular or the legacy portal for creating your guest captive portal page. So the one that I've created here, I've enabled two options. I have the option to either use a voucher or for customers who do not have a voucher, they can use radius based login, that is using a username and password. So what we just clicked at was a mobile preview. That is how the layout would be visible on mobile devices, and the desktop preview would be something for desktops or laptops. So if you scroll down, the hotspot has options for vouchers. That is, you can create a voucher using the hotspot manager. Then there is payment based authentication. So the hotspot manager is something which will help you create the vouchers. Right? Can you click on the second option, the hotspot manager? Okay, so any users who have been authenticated will show up here along with the vouchers. Currently, we have no users in our office right now, so I would not be able to show you how the layout is. Can you go to the last option? Okay, so this is operators. Now, operators, are people who would be looking into guest portal. So let's say that you have set up the controller, you are the super admin, and you want to hand over the portal thing to someone who you do not want to give access to the whole controller. So you can just create an operator login, and you can give them the operator URL, that is a hotspot manager URL. So once they log in, once they open the page, they would be able to log into this portal and create vouchers for any customers without being able to access the controller. So the any operators that are created here will only be able to access the hotspot portal page. They would not be able to access the whole controller itself. So apart from vouchers, like you see here, we have radius-based logins. We have Facebook API authentication. We have Google Plus and WeChat as well. So these are all API based. So you will need to sign up for those APIs if you want to use them for authentication. Right now, I do not have any of those APIs, so I will not be able to show how that works. Next comes the voucher customization. This is something which you need to do on your own if you're familiar with HTML coding. So the file is present on the controller. That is the index.html. So once you enable this, it will give you the permission to edit that file and design your voucher the way you want. So let's say that you want to put a logo or you want to change the text, that can be done from you. The next comes the radius authentication. So you can select radius profile. The reason I've been using default is because the default profile is used by the USG. If you have a third-party radius server, you can create a new profile and you can, set up the radius server IP address, and accordingly, all the authentication requests will be sent to that server instead of the USG. Right. Next comes access control. So this is basically the list of websites or IP addresses that will be allowed. The pre-authorization access is the list of IP addresses or host names that the clients who are not authorized, let's say that a client connects to the network, but he does not have a voucher. So you have the option to give them access to certain websites. So anything that you add in the list, even the users who are not authenticated would be able to access. The next comes post authorization restrictions. This is a list which you can add for adding any restrictions once the user has been authorized.
Yeah, so the guest portal ends up being very, very, very helpful for clients that have a lot of guests visiting them. So, for example, companies, hotels, restaurants, etc., where they don't want to give guests access to their own network and want to create a separate guest portal. The Unified Controller makes it very easy to set up your own guest portal, customize your guest portal completely. You can also connect it to external portals where you can then enable OTP and other various authentication opportunities. So, uh, also, hotspot is a great way for people to kind of monetize on their Wi-Fi. So you can create a hotspot and then charge customers. You can have introduce billing in the hotspot, so customers pay for say 1 hour or 24 hours of Wi-Fi, and you give them a unique hotspot coupon that they use to log in. So both hotspot and guest portals are great ways to make your Wi-Fi network accessible to guests, while at the same time maintaining your security and making sure that your original network is not really affected.
Right. Let's move on to profiles. Okay, so this is where you create the radius profile, the default being the USG. If you go to edit in the USG profile, you have an option to enable it for wireless or wired networks as well. So our devices have the ability to set up radius assigned VLAN. So when you create a user, you have an option of specifying what VLAN that user should go to. So anyone who's connecting to an SSID that has been set up for radius authentication, that user will automatically be placed in that particular VLAN. So that is something I'll be talking about when we go into the next option, that is services. Can you go to switch ports? Okay, so this is where you create switch profiles. Can you click on add new profile? Okay, so once you're here, you have the option of selecting what is the management VLAN that you want for that particular profile. You also have the option of enabling PoE. The pass-through mode will only be applicable for devices that support pass-through, like the UniFi switch or the Invol APs that have PoE pass-through. The next comes the tag networks. These are networks that will be tagged on that particular port of the switch where the profile is applied. The voice network is something that can be used for automatic VLAN assignments for VoIP phones. So any VoIP phone that supports LLDP and you have selected a voice VLAN, those devices will be automatically placed into the voice VLAN. So the advanced option here, once again, they are for radius assigned VLAN or 802.1x. You have the option of auto, wherein the switch will select the authentication method automatically. Forced authorized is if you want the client to be authorized without going through the whole authentication process. Forced unauthorized is when the port will be set to unauthorized. That means it won't pass any traffic unless the device authenticates. MAC based is similar to wireless, the same thing that I explained. If you want a device to connect based on its MAC address, you can select MAC based VLAN. Multi-host is good for devices wherein you have multiple devices that want to do an authentication. In normal mode, it's only one devices that authenticates, but if you're selecting multi-host, there can be multiple devices that can authenticate using the same port. Next comes the link speed. You can set the link speed whatever you want, like 100 Mbps or 1 Gbps, depending upon whatever the devices support. Now you might see there are different speeds, but those are only applicable for devices that are managed. So if you do not have a switch that supports 50 Gbps, you won't be able to select that, or it won't work on the particular device that you're using. Port isolation is basically like private VLANs. We have a KB on that. You can go through it. It's something that helps to reduce broadcast and multicast traffic between two ports. Storm control, once again, it will help in reducing clutter in your network by limiting multicast or broadcast traffic. And this is something which will only apply on egress traffic. That is traffic going out from the switches, not coming into the switches. The next is HTTP, which is it will help you get rid of loops in your network. So that is something which can also be configured using port profiles. Okay, LLDP med, once it's that is something which is used for VoIP phones. So you can, if you're having a voice profile for a switch, so if you're deploying a switch which has multiple VoIP phones connected to it, you can enable LLDP med and assign that profile on all the ports where the VoIP phones are connected, and the voice phones will it will automatically be placed into a particular voice VLAN. The rate limit is basically a kind of an ACL which will limit your traffic that is going out from the switch. So instead of doing it on the router, you can do it on a per port basis by creating profiles here. Let's move to services. Right, so this is where the users would be created. All the users for Wi-Fi or L2TP or PPTP connection can be created here. So when you create a new user, you have an option of specifying the name, the password, and the VLAN. If you're using radius assigned VLAN for wireless or wired, you can even specify the VLAN ID. So those users that are connecting using that particular username and password will automatically placed into the particular VLAN on the AP or on the switch. Right. In DHCP, it's the same options that I told you about. You have an option to enable USG as a DHCP server and the DNS forwarder. There's an option for DHCP relay if you're using the third-party DHCP server, and there is DHCP options which you can use for any devices. Dynamic DNS is for setting up a host name or a FQDN that will help resolve to your USG's public IP. That is, if you're using some devices that rely on FQDN or host names, you can set up DDNS over here. MDNS is multicast DNS, mostly used by Apple devices or any devices that rely on multicast data. So if you're having multiple VLANs and if you want the MDNS traffic to go from one VLAN to another, you can enable the MDNS service. Right, so the next is, can you go back to services? Okay, so UPnP, SNMP is if you're having SNMP server, you can create the settings over here. I do not have an SNMP server, so I won't be able to show you how it works. The next is UPnP. So this is a global option. So once you have enabled here, the settings will be enabled, but ultimately it will depend upon the settings that you create in your networks. When you're creating your network, let's say a corporate or a guest, or only if you enable UPnP, UPnP will be enabled for the network, not otherwise. NTP is the NTP server, that is network time. So this is something which will be used by all the adopted devices to synchronize the time. So that is how the alerts or the notifications will work. Schedule upgrades is something which will help you upgrade all the devices simultaneously instead of having to do them manually. So once you create a schedule, you can just select the time at which you want the schedule to run, and all the devices that are adopted in the controller will be upgraded. Right. The next option in settings is admins. This is where you can create multiple admins for your controller. So you can either create a super admin, an administrator, or a read-only account. So a read-only account basically won't be able to make any changes, just view the controller, the stats, that is it. The super admin account is someone which will have all the rights or make any changes in the controller. User group I've already covered. It is something which will be used to limit speeds on the AP. So if you have multiple SSIDs, you can set a user group for each SSID.
Thanks. I think that's pretty much covers a lot of the settings, and I know people may have a lot of questions right now. So we'll have questions towards the end. We'll wrap up pretty soon. Just want to quickly talk about the various. I mean, I think he's spoken about the various options here, but I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But we also do have a map settings here, wherein you can actually upload your own floor plan and see what the heat map would look like. You can go ahead and place devices. You can edit floor plans. So you can edit floor plans and even place devices here. So definitely recommend you to check this out. This is a great way for you to plan. This is a great way for you to plan your unified network. You can see what it would look like. You can even change things like the wall width and the wall material, etc. So something cool to look at, and especially as someone who's planning the network, and I saw a lot of questions about which devices to use and how many devices to use. This is something that is great to have in that sense. So I'm going to move back to the presentation now. Again, anyone can always go to demo.ui.com. Once you go to demo.ui.com, you will be able to just view exactly what Pranav just showed you guys and see the entire controller. So it's a great opportunity for you to check out a lot of the different options that the controller has. So these options include various dashboard options, ways to see your entire network, ways to see statistics of the different traffic that you have. You can look at all your devices and manage the devices remotely. You can manage the clients remotely. And also there's a lot of different things you can do in terms of looking at neighboring access points that aren't part of your network. So some might even refer to these as rogue access points, but here we call them neighboring access points. So just want to talk a little bit just about some different programs we have for India, and then we're going to open the floor up to questions. I know it's already been 2 hours, so some people might have to leave. So I'll just talk about a few more things and then wrap it up, and then we'll stay on for some questions that people have. So we do have a partnership program. I'll be sending you an email about that. So if you're a system integrator, you're in India, definitely a great program to be a part of. It gives you priority access to the Ubiquity team. And as we come up with new products and new product samples and free merchandise, we'll be sending you things. We also have a Facebook page which we can keep highlighting your deployments on. So if you want to submit a case study, for example, it's definitely a great place to do it. Don't worry about this. I'll send you more information on how to register to be a partner. We also have our Facebook page. So definitely recommend liking our Facebook page because we are constantly posting about new reviews, new products, and very interesting information on there that will help you with your network deployments. And we also have a lot of case studies. So if you want to submit a case study to the Ubiquity community, you can submit a case study and you can just reach out to me. You can email india@ui.com and I can help you write up a case study, which we can then publish. For example, you see, we published this case study of an office space in Indore recently, and it's already gotten 5,000 plus views. So it's a great place for you to also get your name out there. You can put your company's name there, your personal name there, and it's a great way for the Ubiquiti community to also see all the great work that you're doing with Ubiquiti devices. Finally, also want to introduce you to help.ui.com. I'm just going to take you to it pretty quickly. Help.ui.com is kind of the first place you should be going to if you have any questions about kind of any issues with Ubiquiti. So let me just go there. So you can simply go to help.ui.com and you can access a lot of the different help topics that we have. A lot of the things Pranav was talking about actually are available on help.ui.com. Let me see why this is not working. Sorry, just a minute. You can simply go to help.ui.com. You can select what device you're having an issue with. So say, for example, if you're having an issue with UniFi, you can select UniFi network. And there are lots of different questions here. So most of the questions that are currently being asked on the chat actually can be very easily found on your help.ui.com. And there are some really great help articles that we have written to help you through them. So definitely recommend checking this out. In addition to help.ui.com, you can also go to a community page. That's community.ui.com. And there you can also post a lot of questions. You can create a topic and post questions that you may have about your own deployments. So these are lots of questions that people are asking. Every few hours you have new questions, and we have our engineers on here answering questions as well. You can also check out stories. You can see what different Ubiquiti deployments other people around the world have done. And you can also try and get ideas and post suggestions, or you can even post your own Ubiquiti deployments out here. So for example, this is an office deployment that someone has posted, and people can comment on them. So moving back, we also have a WhatsApp group. So for people who have Ubiquiti support, as you know, we have our help page. We also have a support team. You can always reach out to them by going to help.ui.com. You can chat with live support, and you can even email support@ui.com for 24/7 support. At the same time, we also specifically for India, we have launched a WhatsApp group. So you can use this link to join our WhatsApp group. And this WhatsApp group is used. There are lots of people on this group, all UniFi and Ubiquiti users who use this group for any technical questions they have. And it's also a group where I constantly keep sharing more information and new topics in Ubiquiti. So it's definitely a great place to be at. So if you're interested in Ubiquiti, if you're using Ubiquiti right now, you can join our WhatsApp group by just copying this link and putting it in your browser, ubnt.link/UI India. So you could even take a picture of this page right now and then join the WhatsApp group later on. I'll also follow up in my email with all of these different points. So yeah, join us on Facebook, join us on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining here. Once again, for those who have joined late, I want to talk about this new research that we're doing. We're having a Ubiquiti IT feedback research program right now where we're giving out 15 free t-shirts to participants. So definitely a good chance to get some Ubiquiti gear for free. But all we need right now is for you to share with us some contacts of IT decision makers at various companies, especially the ones that do not use Ubiquiti right now. This is purely in order for us to be able to do more research in India and get an idea of what our customers' needs are. We want to just have some quick 2 to 5 minute phone calls with them. This is not a place where we're going to be trying to pitch Ubiquiti or sell Ubiquiti. We'll answer any questions they have, but I'm not going to be trying to sell Ubiquiti to any customers here. This is simply so that I can conduct some research and get some information on what they look for in devices, which will really help our team develop devices in the future. So if you have any contacts of IT decision makers who don't use Ubiquiti right now, you can forward them to india@ui.com or WhatsApp us at the number there, 98203-99494. So definitely recommend taking a picture of this slide if you haven't already, and sending us as much as you can, because the more entries you send, the higher your chances of winning the Ubiquity t-shirts that we're giving away. Okay, so that said, I think we're going to move on to some questions right now. A lot of people have questions. So I'm going to just look at the questions that we have and start moving on to them. And can use Pranav and Rakesh's help to answer them. Just give me a second. So one question was, what does MIMO stand for? So MIMO is MIMO. Pranav, do you want to give a quick overview of what exactly is MIMO, 2x2 MIMO, 4x4 MIMO? What do we talk about there?
I think this is something which is freely available on the internet. You know, you can read about MIMO. Our devices support MIMO 2x2 and 3x3. Now, most of these are AP as well as client features. So when you're using APs, you might have seen that a lot of APs advertise speed up to 1.7 Gbps. Now, this is something which is only possible if you have a client also which supports the same level of MIMO that the AP does.
Yeah.
You can easily go on Google, just read about MIMO. I'm sure you'll be able to get plenty much information.
Yeah, so it's a new technology that helps you have faster throughput and faster speeds for your Wi-Fi. So one more question. So how can we connect a Geo router? I think there were two questions about this on the Geo router. So if you already have a Geo router, how do you connect your USG to that?
I'm really not sure how a Geo router is or how it looks. Maybe if someone can, send us pictures or something, I'll have a better idea if it will work with the USG. So basically, if the Geo router has a LAN connection or if it has a bridge mode, you should be able to set it up with the USG.
Okay. Can we configure guest login with time limit to Wi-Fi access? A question from Kushar. Can we have a time limit on the guest login?
Yeah, you can set up the time limit. So that is basically with vouchers. So once you have a voucher, you can select the amount of time that the user will be authorized for. So once the time is done, the user will be unauthorized and the access will be stopped.
Okay. So does VLAN work in an AP if you use a third-party layer 2 switch?
Yes, the third-party layer 2 switch that supports VLAN, that is a managed switch, it will work.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question also on SMS authentication, how exactly that works. So the controller itself doesn't have SMS authentication, but you can always connect your guest portal to an external portal by just putting in the IP address, and then you can always subscribe to an external authentication software that will let you do it. So is there any MAC address limitation, any limitation on the number of MAC addresses you can configure for MAC filtering?
Yeah, 512 per WLAN group.
Okay, so per WLAN group, you can configure 512 MAC addresses. So in the firewall, in the USG firewall, do we have a license? Can we get a license for an antivirus or malware? How exactly does that work with the USG?
I think I've already answered that over here, but once again, none of our devices require any kind of license. So the firewall or the controller or any features that are offered like DPI or IPS or the firewall do not require a license. So as long as you have a product, you can continue to use it without the need for any license.
Yeah. So how many port forwarding rules can we create?
But there's no limit to that. But the controller has a HTML limit because once you create around I think 120 rules, the rules might not be visible correctly. So you can say that there's a limit of 100 or 120.
Okay. So what is the use of DHCP relay?
That has already been covered. Like I said, DHCP relay is for third-party DHCP servers. So if you do not want to use USG as a DHCP server for multiple VLANs, you can set up DHCP relay.
Thanks. So using the controller, is a Wi-Fi monetization platform possible? How can you monetize with your Wi-Fi? I think I can answer that as well. So basically you can use the UniFi hotspot software, which is again a free software. And by using that software, you can create multiple coupons for your guests and for your users, and you can charge them. You can even have a billing feature in there where you can charge them for using coupons. So people can log into your guest network. They can purchase coupons for 1 hour, 2 hours, 24 hours, 7 days, whatever it may be. And that way you can even monetize your internet connection through the hotspot option. Can I block rogue access points, rogue hotspots or routers?
I'm not sure what they mean by block. You cannot block an access point if it's broadcasting. So it's similar to cellular towers. If there is a tower of Geo and if there's a tower of Vodafone, you can't block that network because that will continue to broadcast. So similarly with APs. So if you have another AP which is close by to a AP that you have set up, you won't be able to block it. So the only workaround is to use a different channel or a different frequency.
So Srikanth has a question. Is it possible to create a mesh network with UAP AC devices?
Yeah, you can create a mesh network. We have a wireless uplink knowledge base article for that. It gives a list of all the devices that will support the mesh topology.
Yeah, so you can always just Google Ubiquiti wireless uplink or Ubiquiti mesh, and you can find some great help articles on there on how to do it. So so basically we're going to keep answering questions now, and here online, if you see our email address as well as our Facebook, Twitter page and WhatsApp group, information is there. So you can always email us, but if you have technical questions, we recommend india@ui.com will not be able to help you with any technical questions. So you can reach out to support@ui.com and email our support team. But before you email our support team, we definitely recommend Googling the question and checking out online, because we have a lot of resources online that can probably answer most of the questions that you have. So if you still have questions, you can keep asking them on the question chat. Given that we have so many people who are on the call right now, it's going to be very difficult for us to have participants ask questions live. I don't think we have the ability or time to do that right now. So for the sake of making things smoother, please ask all your questions on the chat itself. We're not going to be having people ask their live questions right now. How many devices can be connected in a mesh network? Umesh Vyas has a question. So there's no limit to the number of devices that can be connected in one Ubiquiti network. So each Ubiquiti access point can wirelessly uplink to 4 other access points. So if you want to wirelessly connect access points to each other, each wired access point can connect to 4 other access points wirelessly. But for your entire network, you can create an entire mesh network with multiple wired access points, and there's no limit really, because they all can be supported by the UniFi controller. I think, Ajay, you have another question about the UniFi controller. There's no limit to how many access points can be supported on there. The limit simply depends on where exactly you plan to host the access point. If it's a Cloud Key or a Cloud Key Gen 2 Plus, has a certain limit. Otherwise, you can host it on your own dedicated server or a cloud platform, and depending on the specs of that platform, it would manage the performance of your controller. But as from Ubiquiti's side, there is no limit to the number of access points that a controller can manage. Ashish, right now the Ubiquiti controller does not support non-Ubiquiti devices. The only devices you can manage on the Ubiquiti controller are our devices. So it's unlikely that in the future also that it would be supporting non-Ubiquiti devices, but we don't have that information right now. Jagan Kumar, you had a question about 3-pack or 2-pack devices for connect to controller. I'm not exactly sure what your question is. You can buy devices in 3-packs and 5-packs, yes. But in terms of connecting controllers, you can also connect as many sites as you want. So you can have 20 different office locations with different controllers running there, and they can all be managed from the same controller. So you can have multiple sites in one controller. So that would make it very easy for someone to manage multiple sites at once. Kundan, you have a question on how many connections can there be for Wi-Fi's who are Wi-Fi who are sharing a hotspot. Again, it really depends on the devices you're using. The unified controller itself does not have any set user limit. So our products are very flexible. It really depends on what devices you end up using. Okay, there's a question from Suraj. Suppose once the AP is adopted, and after a few months we forgot the controller credentials, how can we reconfigure or gain access to the AP again? Pranav, do you want to take that?
Right. So when you set up the controller, there's an option to set up the SMTP server. So the SMTP server can be your email account, like your company account or Gmail or anything that you have, anything that works on SMTP. So once it's set up, you can use the controller to send a reset link to your email address. So that way you'll be able to reset your password. But in case if you have set up a controller and you have missed setting up the server in the controller, there's no other way to gain access back into the controller.
So what's the difference between EdgeMac switches? I know we've not spoken about EdgeMac switches yet. So what's the difference between EdgeMac switches and UniFi switches?
EdgeMac switches are mostly layer 3 switches. The other thing is that they cannot be managed by a unified controller. So they have their own GUI, and all the settings that need to be done are to be done by the GUI. So they cannot be centrally managed, unlike the unified switches. They can be added to UNMS, but the options are very limited, the configuration options.
Okay, yeah. So if you still have questions, you can keep asking questions. We may have missed some questions earlier on. So if we haven't answered a question, you may ask it again. So Komal, which Wi-Fi device would you suggest for large corporates with more than 1,000 employees and want to work remotely? So in a case like this, we definitely recommend going with multiple access points. Just one access point is not going to be able to support 1,000 devices. So depending on how your office is configured, we'd recommend going with the UniFi Nano HD or HD, especially for large offices where you can have so many employees that might be walking around. You want to make sure that the employees get the necessary and you kind of connect well. So Nano HD or HD would be a great option here, but you can also go with the UAP-AC Pro. And if you, as long as you set up enough number of devices, that should be good enough to ensure your users have Wi-Fi. And then for employees who want to work remotely, for that, to set up a VPN, you would need to have a USG. So get a USG, and I guess in the case of 1,000 employees, you might want to go with the USG Pro 4, which has higher performance. So with the USG Pro 4, you can very easily set up VPNs so that your employees can then log into your office network remotely. So Jagan Kumar, I'm not sure of your question, but all Ubiquiti devices are dual band. That means all our access points support 2.4 as well as 5 gigahertz. So you can have both your 2.4 and 5 gigahertz set up on the access point.
Right. And if you need a router that supports 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, then UDM is the only option. That's a UDM based model, Pro.
Our edge switches PoE supported.
Yeah, it's the PoE for all the switches are the same. They either support 802.3 AF, and the newer switches support 802.3 BT. That's PoE purpose.
How many access points can we connect to the CloudKey Gen 2 Plus?
Right, like we've already answered this before, there is no limit to the number of devices that you connect. The limitation is the space that is being utilized to store the statistics. So if you have selected an option to store statistics for over a month and you have like around 400 or 500 devices, the space that you have, let's say 5 or 10 GB, will be utilized within 2 or 3 months, after which you need to clean up the data. So it all depends on where you are hosting the controller. So if you have multiple devices, we would suggest hosting it on a controller, on a server, or on the cloud platform where there is no limitation for space.
So what if we want to encrypt the VPN authentication via IPsec certificates? Can we import them and use? A question from Suraj.
No, certificate based authentication is not supported in the controller.
Thanks. Question from Nitin Oswal. We don't have a direct contact for technical support, so you can always email us or chat with us live. Else, you can also reach out to our distributors. We will be sharing the contacts of all of our distributors, so you can reach out to them as well for questions on support, because they all have trained professionals working with them who are very well versed in Ubiquiti devices. Vinayak has a question: any future update on firewall and antivirus signatures? As of now, the Unified Dream Machine Pro is the latest device that we have for our firewall devices. So you can check out that device and see if that meets your needs.
Okay, I guess he's asking about the signature updates. That if you're talking about the DPI-based firewall signatures and the IPS, those happen on a daily basis, every 24 hours.
Anup has a question: can we connect unified devices with touch switches?
No.
Okay.
So touch switches basically only provide 24 and 48 volts. So only the older access points which had support for 24-volt passive or 48-volt passive would be powered by touch switch. You won't be able to use the newer models.
Thanks. So once again, we've come to the end of our presentation. We're going to stay on for a little bit more to answer any questions that people have. If you have a question, you can very just simply post it in the question panel. This video is available on YouTube. This entire video will be available on YouTube through our YouTube channel. So you can always view it there. You can always rewind and relook at different parts. At the same time, you can like our Facebook page, like our Twitter page, join our WhatsApp group, and stay in touch with the Ubiquiti community. If you have any questions that are non-technical questions, you can also reach out to me at india@ui.com. Also, one more thing, and just a reminder, we're conducting a free t-shirt giveaway right now. So we're looking for participants who can help us conduct research. The research is basically research with end customers. So we want to talk to end customers that aren't using Ubiquiti devices right now to just understand what their needs are, what the devices are. We aren't trying to sell anything to them. It's going to be a quick 5-minute phone call. So if you can send us contacts of end customers that you work with who aren't using Ubiquiti devices, I can reach out to them for quick 5-minute calls just to get an idea of what their internet needs are. You can email us at india@ui.com and send us those contacts there, and stand a chance to win t-shirts. We have 15 t-shirts here, which we are giving away, and we'll deliver directly to your locations if you win. The more entries you can have, the greater your chances of winning this cool Ubiquiti swag. Suraj, what is the range under which the APs must come under each other so that they work as a mesh wireless uplink? Again, we've gotten a lot of examples of people using really, really close meshes and really far meshes. We can't definitively see what the range is because it's going to depend on APs. Each AP is going to be very different. So we can't definitively tell you what the range is, but you have to test it out. Or you can also look at our community page. That's a great place to interact with other users and ask questions there. So you will see other users who've done something similar, and you can see what ranges they have used with their devices, and this will give you an idea of what works well for you. So Vinayak, so this is, yes, so we do also have an official Ubiquiti training, which is a certification training. This is a webinar which we're hosting, which is something new we're doing just for India, but we do have an official Ubiquiti training, and we're currently working with our distributors to host some of these trainings. So we're planning to host some training soon. Obviously, once things change, once things calm down a little bit and after the lockdown, we will definitely keep this entire group aware of any upcoming trainings that we have. So we do have certification trainings that you can attend in person and get certified with Ubiquiti. So yeah, we're going to stay on for a bit more. Seems like some people might still have questions, but you're welcome to also exit now because we've covered the entire topics. If there are things you missed out on, you can always look at the link. We're going to have this uploaded on YouTube, on our YouTube channel. It's called Ubiquity India. So that's going to be a great place for you to review this video anytime you want and relook at the different things that Pranav and Rakesh have explained to you. Kanchan, I see a question in the chat. There's no option for extended warranty through Ubiquity. You can contact your distributors and dealers directly if they want to offer it, but we only offer a standard 1-year warranty as of now. That could change in the future, but as of now, it's only a 1-year warranty. So if you still have questions, you can keep asking them on the question and answer option here. But otherwise, we have concluded with our webinar. And thank you once again, everyone, for joining. We really appreciate you taking this time out to learn more about Ubiquity. And also, most importantly, please stay safe. Stay at home, stay indoors, and stay safe right now. Everything else can take a backseat, but health is the #1 priority for everyone here. So thank you very much for joining. And we really, really hope that you learned something today. And we are excited for you to continue working with Ubiquity, or if you haven't started yet, we're excited for you to start working with Ubiquity. I can assure you that it's a great option for enterprise Wi-Fi, and we have very, very loyal customers who have been using Ubiquity for years and have been extremely happy with it. So if you haven't tried it yet, now is a great chance for you to go ahead and try it. We have some cool devices like the Unified Dream Machine that you can get your hands on. Otherwise, for those who are already using Ubiquity, look forward to continue staying in touch and continue helping you with more information. So we didn't, I know we didn't talk about our CCTV range. We have a lot of cameras, Unify Protect. You can simply go to our website and check those out, or even contact one of our distributors. Since we're getting a lot of questions about CCTV, let me just quickly show you what the website is. So you can simply go to Protect, Unify Protect, which is what our camera range is called. And there you can actually see the various different cameras that we have. So we have 4 cameras that are going to be available in India. All our cameras are high quality cameras, highly scalable. And again, there's no monthly fees and you have complete control over your data. So we have the G3 Flex, the G3 Pro, the G3, and the G3 Dome. So these are all 1080p resolution cameras with weatherproof options, as well as night vision and infrared. So you can definitely check out our website and look more about our camera options. Since this webinar was mainly focused on Wi-Fi, we didn't talk too much about our camera options, but we definitely are there. Anup Kapoor has a question on please suggest mesh devices. So for outdoor mesh, we have the UAP-AC Mesh and the UAP-AC Mesh Pro. If you want to check out our website as well, you can see it here. Again, everything is available online, so it's very easy to find Ubiquity resources. These are the outdoor devices that you can use for outdoor mesh technology. Depending on the number of users you have and depending on how large your network is, for larger networks and larger areas, you would go ahead with the Mesh Pro. It's a great mesh device for long range outdoor connectivity. Seems like we're pretty much done with the questions right now. Most people have had their questions answered. We're not seeing any new questions. So we'll stay on for a couple more minutes, but otherwise we're going to be wrapping up. So thank you once again for everyone to joining. Tamal, I think you have a question on any repeater model available. We actually do have something called the Unified Beacon. It's a cool mesh. It's almost, I don't like to say repeater because it's a lot more advanced than a repeater. This is a new product that's coming to India soon. So for wireless mesh, we also have this Unified Beacon as a product available. But otherwise, any of the access points can be used in the repeater mode in that they can all wirelessly connect to an access point. So if you can't run a wire, you can use the access points to create wireless uplinks and meshes and to extend your network. And again, if you have any technical questions after this, you can email support@ui.com. I'm going to type that out on the team, support@ui.com, and that's the email you can use to contact for technical questions. Anup, I just see that you've recently done an international yoga event with the UAPSC Mesh Pro successfully. That's really great to hear. If you want, you can email me and we can work to create a case study for that so that we can share it with the rest of the India community. And Kunal Gupta, yes, I'm going to be sending you details of distributors. I'll be sending it on an email to all the participants after this call. Okay, so we're going to end it now. Thank you again. Thank you once again, everyone. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and we're really, really appreciating that you guys could join. I know it's been over 2.5 hours and you have been really, really helpful and asking some really, really good questions here. So thank you all for joining, and I'll follow up I'll follow up with one email with the distributor contacts. I'll send you another email about the partnership program and also other helpful links that you can refer to as you're going forward. And we really hope that you can continue to enjoy Ubiquiti, continue to enjoy your networking, and once things have settled down, also continue to deploy Ubiquiti to clients so that you can benefit from the high performance, ease of control, and also low cost that these devices provide compared to a lot of our competitors. Appreciate all of you joining, and we're going to end it right now. Thank you.
Bye, guys.